Yes, sir.
Sure. So let's start with the today's newspaper analysis. Can you also see the newspaper on your screen? Is it visible to all of you? Newspaper is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sure. Fine. So as we all know that war is going on between Iran and Israel. So Iran warns against the Iran warns US against the ground operation. We have already discussed that till now, both Iran and USA and Israel, it was having air strikes on Iran. But recently, the American President Donald Trump has talked about having a ground operation in Iran and more Marines to arrive in US. So, waiting for them, this is what the Iran government has said with respect to the USA's warning about this ground operation. So Islamabad holds regional talks as the strike increases. As we already discussed that Pakistan is acting as a mediator between USA and Iran in this war. And already pause has been declared by the President of America. Now there is a day 30 of this war, and we have seen that 5 days pause was declared by the American president. Now let's see what happens. So the diplomats from Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey were in Islamabad for talks with Pakistani leaders to find an end to the West Asia conflict. तो ये जो West Asia में जो conflict चल रहा है, इस conflict को end करने के लिए different countries which are affected by this war, that is Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, they are coming. Tehran has threatened to target Israel and US educational facilities unless the US condemns bombing on Iranian universities. We have already seen that many school going girls have been killed in the conflict between Iran and USA. So, Iran has also threatened to America that if they keep continuing attack on the Educational Institute of Tehran, then they will also attack on the US, the educational institutions. Gulf nations continue to be targeted. UAE and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait said they responded to missile and drone attacks. Why the Gulf nations are being targeted by the Iran? क्या वजह है? Although the Gulf nations are not a part of this war, but still, many Gulf nations were targeted by Iran. What is the reason?
फिर अमेरिका के एयरबेस गल्फ नेशन में
Yes. Now, rethinking of the air defense, countering the drones to target. This is what is said by war lessons from the military. So, strategic assets have become more vulnerable now because of this use of the drones for the targeting. So, drones and warfare. So, we have seen that in the latest, in the last few years, the warfare has changed. Rather than using the military personnel, drones are being used for war, and that is why many strategic, the assets are being targeted with the help of these drones. Left hand side, there is one news with respect to Lok Sabha is scheduled to take up the discussion on the government's efforts to end the left wing extremism. You remember left wing extremism को लेकर कुछ target रखा हुआ था by Ministry of Home Affairs.
Yes, sir.
So the Lok Sabha, we have already discussed. Lok Sabha is what? House of People, or it is the House of Council of State?
House of people.
Right. So Lok Sabha is scheduled to take up the discussion on government's effort to end the left-wing extremism. Union Home Minister Amit Shah had set March 2026 as the deadline to free the country of Maoist violence. You remember this? We have already discussed. और इससे रिलेटेड मेंस 2025 में क्वेश्चन पूछा गया था. We have already discussed this issue. What is left-wing extremism? What is the linkage between development and left-wing extremism? And what are the strategies? What are the various, the ways through which the Guinean government has tried to end the left-wing extremism in India? Those students who have newly joined, they might not be very aware about what is this left-wing extremism, Naxalism, etc. But I will be taking this class. I will be explaining this concept in the mains class. Okay. Anyone knows what is this left-wing extremism? Lavanya, काय आहे left-wing extremism? Any idea about it? Okay, Sakshi, what is left-wing extremism? We have discussed about it earlier, right? Sakshi, are you there? Yes, कोई और है जो बता सकता है what is left-wing extremism, which Union Home Minister has taken a target of ending it in March 2026, means current month. Yes, Farzana.
Sir, left-wing extremism are against the government because वो इकोनॉमिकली और सोशल चेंजेस लाना चाहते हैं, वो भी आर्म स्ट्रगल से।
ओके, एंड ये किसकी आइडियोलॉजी है? मतलब आर्म स्ट्रगल से गवर्नमेंट मतलब जो करंट जो पॉलिटिकल और जो सोशल सिस्टम है और जो इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम है उसमें वो एक रिफॉर्म लाना चाहते हैं। तो और ये रिफॉर्म लाने के लिए आर्म स्ट्रगल करना जरूरी है। ये किस व्यक्ति की आइडियोलॉजी है जिसको वो फॉलो करते हैं?
माओइस्ट।
माओइस्ट, एंड ही इज फ्रॉम
चाइना।
China. So who's economic, political and social system they wants to bring? मतलब कशा प्रकारचं राजकीय, सामाजिक आणि आर्थिक व्यवस्था त्यांना आणायची आहे? Based on whose ideologies? What kind of economic system they want to bring? The Marxian social system or Marxian utopianism, right? कार्ल मार्क्सच्या विचारावर आधारित जे काही व्यवस्था आहे जिथे there will be more, the value will be given for labor, right, and peasants. So that is what they want to bring it. But anyways, अब almost ये ideology खत्म हो गई है इंडिया में, as we have already discussed about it. We will be discussing in detail about left-wing extremism, its spread in India, how it has got ended in India. That's what all we will be discussing in men's class. Now let's move on to the next page. Elections have been started in Kerala. The Indian Prime Minister had started the poll bit in Kerala. So we all know that Indian Prime Minister is known for drumming such type of instruments. So that's what you can check it out. Prime Minister Modi held a rally in Kerala's Palakkad district and roadshow in Thrissur as a part of the NDA's assembly poll election. So Kerala में legislative assembly के elections होने जा रहे हैं. So elections have been started by Prime Minister Modi. Whose government is there in Kerala now? Which political party is there in the rule?
Communist Party of India.
Communist Party of India, right? And legislative assembly का normally tenure कितने साल का होता है? For how many years the legislative assembly is formed after the election?
5 years.
Yes, after every 5 years, the legislative assembly elections are held. Now, the 7 foreigners who have been held by NIA, that is 1 US and 6 Ukrainian citizens who were held on the charges of smuggling the drones into the northeast part of India and Myanmar. So, court agrees with the National Investigating Agency and says need to probe the drone objective and rebel link. तो ये जो ड्रोन जो दिए गए हैं इनके द्वारा और रिबेलियंस जो हैं उनके साथ में कोई लिंक है या नहीं उसको इन्वेस्टिगेशन करने की जरूरत है. This is what the court has agreed. We have seen 2 days back whether these 7 the foreigners have been given a consular access or they have been denied this consular access. Because these six Ukrainian and American were held on March 13, booked in alleged terror conspiracy case. So हमने already discuss किया हुआ है. NIA investigate which cases in India? What is the main purpose of NIA? Investigate the cases related to terrorism. Now let's move on to next page. So LPG black market is thriving in South India and police southwestern police districts to LPG because we know the supply of the LPG has disrupted it because of this war. So LPG is being sold in सोल्ड इन ब्लैक मार्केट। ब्लैक मार्केट का मतलब कम से ज्यादा कीमतों में उसको बेचा जा रहा है। All these are political news with respect to the elections in Karnataka and Kerala Legislative Assembly. You can read it by yourself. Now let's move on to the today's editorial page. G7 meet underlines the fracture in the West. G7. G7 is a group of which countries?
Developed nation.
Developed nation, right? So we have seen that almost all developed nations have condemned the attack on Iran by the USA. You remember, कल के newspaper में हमने देखा था that they have condemned attack on that civilians, attack on the civilians in Iran, right? So USA is also a part of that group 7. तो G7 ग्रुप में ही फ्रैक्चर है ऐसे मेंशन किया गया है यहाँ पे. So when the foreign ministers of the group of 7 met at the medieval monastery outside Paris last week, their agenda was inevitably dominated by the US-Israel war against Iran and its cascadical global economic consequences. Cascading मतलब उसका इफेक्ट दूसरे ग्लोबल इकोनॉमिक कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस पर हो रहा है. So the minister called for an immediate halt to attacks on civilians and civilian infrastructure, emphasized the protection of the diplomat missions and foreign nationals, and warned that continued escalation could destabilize the wider Middle East. So Europe, ये जो countries हैं, group of developed countries, they have condemned attack on the civilians and they also said that कि इस war को रोकने की जरूरत है. If this war is not stopped, then it might destabilize the wider Middle East. So they called for coordinated humanitarian assistance for the affected population, underline the need for return to diplomatic channels, जो कि इंडिया ने भी कहा था कि this problem could be solved through diplomatic channels. Is there an effort going on to resolve this problem through diplomatic channels? क्या कोई कोशिश की जा रही है इस प्रॉब्लम को डिप्लोमेटिक चैनल से सॉल्व करने की? Yes, right. We have seen that Pakistan is trying to create chances of mediation between US and Iran. You remember that? हमने first page पर भी ये news देखा हुआ था. So G7 minister also warned that disruption to the shipping through the waterways posed a serious threat to the global economy. We have already seen that because of the blockade by the Iran in the Strait of Hormuz, the global economy पे उसका बहुत ज़्यादा क्या हो गया है, असर हो गया है, giving the large share of the world's oil and gas that transits it and indicated readiness to coordinate maritime security efforts to ensure the freedom of the navigation. Anyone remember recently India has discussed this issue with one of the European and developed nations that both will try to create a security, or rather you can say they will try to see how the Strait of Hormuz security can be ensured. Anyone remember with which country India had this, the discussion? With France, right? जहां पर ये G7 मीटिंग हो गई है. Paris was a place where this G7 meeting was held, where all the external affair ministers were there. तो वहां पर हमने देखा था कि these countries have think about that how there can be a maritime security in case of such type of problem, right? So External Affairs Minister Jaishankar attended this Paris meeting as a special invitee alongside the counterparts from the Brazil, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, and Ukraine. So all these are the members of the G7 countries?
Okay.
They are not, but still they are invited as a special invite. Which countries? Like Brazil, then Saudi Arabia, and South Korea, and Ukraine. All these countries have been invited. He used the occasion to engage collectively and bilaterally with the G7 ministers to underscore the importance of coordinated action in ending the war. Jaishankar and his French counterpart agreed to maintain close coordination on securing the Strait of Hormuz. मतलब फ्रांस के साथ में हमने क्या किया है, बातचीत की है कि कैसे स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज को सिक्योर किया जा सकता है. The two ministers also confirmed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's participation in the G7 meeting in the June, underlining the India's contribution to the group's work on macroeconomic imbalances and international partnership. India's presence at the Paris meeting was a demonstration of the country's growing global salience. मतलब इंडिया का महत्व ग्लोबल लेवल पर बढ़ता जा रहा है, and that is why India was invited in this G7 group of countries in the meeting. So it is a reminder of the greater responsibilities that come with it. So as the fracture within the West deepens, India's contribution to stabilizing the Gulf situation becomes not merely needed but also urgent. So do you think India should contribute something in stabilizing the situation in Gulf nation, whatever is happening there? क्या इंडिया को लीड लेना चाहिए, इनिशिएटिव लेना चाहिए? Yes, right. So why India should take a lead? You can understand by reading this paragraph. Is it clear? Chalo. Crisis must spur the efficient use of resources. What crisis is happening in India now? क्या crisis आया अभी फिलहाल इंडिया में because of this war?
LPG crisis.
Yes, LPG crisis. तो crisis के वक्त हमें हमेशा कहते हैं ना, crisis is an opportunity to address that issue, right? तो किस तरीके से हम efficiently use कर सकते हैं? That's what we can understand during this crisis. That is what editorial says. So read this whole article to understand how this crisis might help for Indians to use our resources efficiently. क्या कोई topic है इससे related in syllabus? Efficient use of the resources, Sakshi? Is there any topic in syllabus?
Yes, sir. Mobilization of resources.
Mobilization of resources. So mobilization of resources should be what? How? Mobilization of resources should be efficient and optimum, right?
Yes.
तो इंडिया के जो भी रिसोर्सेस है उसको एफिशिएंटली और ऑप्टिमली कैसे किया जा सकता है, दैट्स व्हाट यू नीड टू फाइंड इट आउट. तो यहाँ पर एक्सप्लेन किया कि दिस क्राइसिस कैन हेल्प इंडिया to use our resources in an optimum way. So read this article, which resources they are talking about and how this problem has created. So this war could be what 1970 energy crisis where to the western economies. तो 1970s में भी इस तरीके का क्राइसिस आया हुआ था. तो उस समय में क्या किया गया था? What steps have been taken by the western countries to revive their economies? That is what is explained here. So efficient imported energy use apart, India must also step on the gas with ethanol blending in petrol, incentivizing the production of the electrified, the flex of fuel vehicle. They should be accompanied by scaling up of the initiatives such as bioadditives in chemical fertilizers to enhance the nutrient uptake and improve the soil health, and dimethyl ether from biomass derived methanol as a substitute to LPG. Please note it down. Dimethyl ether can be used as a substitute to the LPG. Question पूछा जा सकता है. Dimethyl ether was recently seen in the news in the context of what? Right? So substances in news में आप इसको ऐड करना साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी में. इसके पहले भी शायद हमने डिस्कस किया था. Dimethyl ether from the biomass derived methanol that can be used as a substitute for LPG. Bio CNG from the sugarcane, press mud and other agricultural as well as municipal organic waste and potash and distilleries paint wash. तो way forward क्या इस प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करने के लिए हमें कैसे efficiently हमारे रिसोर्सेस को यूज कर सकते हैं, that is what is mentioned here. And the chances of success are higher when opportunity cost of imported fuels that extends to the national security and strategic vulnerabilities become obvious. For India, this is an unprecedented crisis and a moment of opportunity. तो क्राइसिस में हमेशा एक अपॉर्चुनिटी होता है, ऐसे कौन कहते हैं? आपदा में कुछ एक वर्ड इस्तेमाल किया जाता है, आपदा में अवसर. Who says it like? Who says this always? Our Prime Minister Modi, right? So how this crisis can be an opportunity for India to increase our non-fossil fuel based or LPG based energy in India. तो read this article. क्या problem है? What is the problem and what is the solution? You can add it in GS paper 3 topic, utilization of resources or mobilization of resources. Got it, Sakshi? तो ये
Yes.
सारे पॉइंट्स आपको ऐड करने हैं. मेन एग्जाम में क्वेश्चन पूछा जाए तो यू कैन राइट दिस पॉइंट्स, हाउ वी कैन सॉल्व दिस प्रॉब्लम. 4-5 पॉइंट उन्होंने दिया है. पॉइंट 1, एथेनॉल ब्लेंडिंग in petrol. Point 2, incentivizing the production of the electrical fuel vehicle. Then, scaling up the bio additives in chemical fertilizer. Then biomass derived methanol as a substitute for LPG. Bio CNG from sugarcane. Then municipal organic waste से क्या करना चाहिए? बायोगैस बनाना चाहिए. And that is what all mentioned here, right? तो ये क्वेश्चन पूछा जा सकता है. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
चल, now let's move on to the next page. A quiet diplomacy based on national interest. कौसर जहान का आर्टिकल है कि कैसे इंडियन गवर्नमेंट ने क्वाइटली अपने डिप्लोमेसी को उन्होंने क्या किया, यूज किया बेस्ड इन नेशनल इंटरेस्ट. So I think with respect to this Iran and USA war, India has achieved its target of getting the our ships into India. तो without condemning USA's the attack on Iran, उसके बावजूद में हमने देखा है कि Iran is not stopping the India bound the ships. How India has done so quietly, that's what is explained here. You can read it out. Now next article is by CP Radhakrishnan. Who is he?
Vice President of
Vice
India.
President.
And he is a chairman of Rajya Sabha. As a vice president कोई काम होता है vice president को या is having a more what you can say the function as a chairman of Rajya Sabha. As a chairman of Rajya Sabha, right? Anyways, so Vice President CP Radhakrishnan was invited as a Ramnath Goenka Journalism Award, Excellence in Journalism Award. So he said that we should never be cowed by anyone. हमें किसी को डरने की जरूरत नहीं है. And never expect anyone to be subservient to us. That is what CP Radhakrishnan had said. So read this article to understand what he had said. So Donald Trump may trigger the process of regime change, but not in Iran. Do you remember? We have discussed that one of the objectives of the USA's attack on Iran was the regime change. He wanted to change the regime in Iran, but ये हुआ नहीं है. But पिछले 2-3 दिनों से लगातार the protest is happening in America rather than the protest is happening in Iran. मतलब he wanted to change the government in Iran, but American peoples are protesting against Donald Trump himself for his policies against the his war policy against the Iran. So it has triggered the process of regime change, but not in Iran, but where? In his own country against himself. Is it clear? That is what is mentioned here. Read this article, that how the regime change is happening, how it has triggered in his own country. Kerala's polls will shape the future of its bipolar politics. केरला में हमेशा bipolar politics होते रहते हैं. Two main political parties are there in Kerala. One is called as UDF, another is called as LDF, Left Democratic Front and United Democratic Front. तो ये bipolar politics में हमेशा होता रहता है. In Kerala, Tamil Nadu, BJP never wins the MLAs or MPs, but this time there might be a possibility that the BJP might have some inroads in Kerala and Tamil Nadu. यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है, while the BJP remains, let me check it out. While BJP remains far from emerging as a serious, the contender for the state power, it has broken its earlier electoral isolation in certain pockets, making several constituency triangular contests. तो कुछ जगहों पर बीजेपी, कांग्रेस और एलडीएफ में कंटेस्ट होने के चांसेस ऐसा कहा गया, राइट? केरला में हमने देखा था मॉडर्न इंडियन हिस्ट्री में एसएनडीपी नाम की एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बनाई गई थी. एनीवन रिमेंबर? सोशल रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट्स के वक्त में हमने देखा था, वन ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन व्हिच वाज स्टार्टेड ड्यूरिंग द मॉडर्न इंडियन हिस्ट्री, SNDP. So was it a anti-caste movement or it was a religious reform movement? SNDP, remember Sri Narayan Dharmapalan Yogam ऐसा एक था, which was started by Sri Narayan Guru. Yes or no? Go and check it out. SNDP, what is the full form, and modern Indian history में हमने डिस्कस किया था. Who had started this organization? What was the importance of that? तो उसके अलावा भी बहुत सारे अलग अलग communities हैं केरला में. Kerala is one of the what you can say the most diverse society. That in Kerala there are upper caste Hindu, there are Muslim, there are Syrian Christians, which organizations such as Nair Service Society, SNDP, and Jamaat-e Islami Hind has also generated unease among the sections of Muslim organization. So politics क्या explain किया गया? Political science students can read this article if they want to understand the politics of Kerala. Otherwise, no need of reading this article. You can ignore this. Economic page. Center में add battery storage under revamped PM Kusum 2.0. PM Kusum is a scheme started by the Union government for solar power in India, where a subsidy is given under the PM Kusum for starting a solar, the what you can say the solar rooftop solar system, right? So battery storage पे there was no subsidy given till now. But now the government is thinking about giving a subsidy for the battery storage system as well. The center extended the timeline for financial closure and completion of the projects under PM Kusum scheme on Saturday. तो इसको extend किया गया है. The current scheme focuses on solarization of the agri pumps, does not include the batteries. तो PM Kusum के तहत सोलर जो पंप दिए जाते हैं एग्री पंप्स, there is no battery storage given. Battery storage is under consideration to address the challenge of mismatch between the agri power demand and the solar generation pattern. So read this article why battery storage also needs to be given a subsidy. That is what is explained here. Question पूछा जा सकता है, but already question prelims में पूछा गया. PM Kusum योजना ये किससे रिलेटेड है पूछा गया था. तो PM Kusum is with respect to what? Solar power in India. Is it clear? चलिए. Now let's move on to next page. WTO's 14th ministerial conference is going, right? In which country this WTO's 14th ministerial conference is being conducted? हमने डिस्कस किया था ऑलरेडी. ये कहाँ हो रहा है? Where it is being held? Cameroon. Cameroon is a South African country. वहाँ पर हो रहा है और वहाँ पर China is trying to take some initiatives, right? Cameroon is located in South Africa, West Africa or North Africa? Yes, Ikra, Farzana. किसी ने देखा है Cameroon exactly located in which part of the African continent? West or South or North?
वेस्ट अफ्रीका.
ऐसे क्वेश्चन पूछे गए हैं यूपीएससी के द्वारा, तो बस आपको देखना है. कैमरून का एक सिग्निफिकेंस है क्या है? That's what you go and check it out. So, reform deal in sight at WTO amid the US-India e-commerce deal. US और इंडिया के दरम्यान ई-कॉमर्स प्लेटफॉर्म को लेकर कुछ डिस्प्यूट चल रहा है. तो WTO में शायद हो सकता है इस इश्यू को क्या किया जाएगा, सॉल्व किया जाएगा. So I will be explaining to you that what is WTO, what is the significance of the WTO, and what are the issues in WTO. जैसे यूनाइटेड नेशंस कॉन्फ्रेंस फ्रेमवर्क जो है, कन्वेंशन ऑन द ग्लोबल वार्मिंग एंड क्लाइमेट चेंज, वहां पर डेवलप्ड नेशन और डेवलपिंग नेशन के दरमियान में कुछ इश्यूज हैं. सिमिलर सच इश्यूज आर आल्सो देयर इन अमंग द डेवलप्ड एंड डेवलपिंग नेशन इन द WTO as well with respect to certain trading the issues. So agricultural e-commerce is a contentious issue between America and India. America want access to India's agricultural e-commerce sector, while India wants protection for Indian farmers and India's, the e-commerce platforms. So what is this issue? I'll discuss with you in the basics of WTO class, in basics of Indian economic class. यहाँ पर special and differential treatment is there, similar like special and differential treatment in global warming and climate change also. Do you remember? चलिए, now let's move on to the next page. कॉपर की डिमांड बढ़ती जा रही है. कॉपर का इस्तेमाल कौन सी इंडस्ट्री में ज्यादा किया जा रहा है रिसेंटली? वे बिकॉज ऑफ दैट द कॉपर डिमांड इज इंक्रीज इन इंडिया. कॉपर क्वेश्चन पूछा जा सकता है. इंडिया इज सेल्फ सफिशिएंट फॉर इट्स कॉपर रिक्वायरमेंट. क्या इंडिया सेल्फ सफिशिएंट है? कॉपर जितनी जरूरत है इंडिया में उतना प्रोडक्शन होता है या वी इंपोर्ट फ्रॉम अदर कंट्रीज? We import from other countries. हमने already discuss किया हुआ है that we import it from some of the Latin American countries, some of the African countries. और कॉपर की जरूरत को पूरी करने के लिए ही इंडिया के प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने बहुत सारे दौरे किए थे लैटिन अमेरिकन कंट्रीज के. यू रिमेंबर? Anyways, so copper is essential to the modern economy. Copper, Chalcolithic period, copper age. You remember copper age, bronze age? Copper is the first metal which human beings started, using. मतलब मनुष्याने सर्वात अगोदर कुठल्या धातूचा जर वापर करायला सुरुवात केला असेल तर तो कुठला धातू आहे ॲज अ मेटल? इट इज कॉपर, राइट? आफ्टर stone age, copper age, bronze age, then Chalcolithic age, and then iron age. You remember that chronology of the history?
Yes.
So copper अभी से नहीं, copper बहुत पहले से ही it was a very very important metal. We have seen even during Mahabharata's time or even during Vedic period, the arrows which were made by those Aryans in war, जे बाण बनवलं जात होतं ते कॉपरचा वापर करूनच बनवलं जात होतं. Am I right? So
Yes, sir.
copper is
अभी
essential
फिलहाल
to
कॉपर
the.
कहाँ यूज हो रहा है सर?
Sorry?
अभी फिलहाल कॉपर कहाँ यूज हो रहा है सर ज्यादा से ज्यादा?
We'll discuss it. यहाँ पर दिया हुआ है जितेंद्र. The copper is essential to the modern economy as well. Copper was very essential ancient economy, but it is also very essential in the copper in the modern economy, with uses ranging from housing and manufacturing of the power grids. पावर ग्रिड में कॉपर का इस्तेमाल ज्यादा होता है. डू यू नो घर की जो वायरिंग होती है, घर में जो हम इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का जो फिटिंग करते हैं वो कॉपर के वायर से ही किया जाता है. यू नो दैट?
ओके ओके. जो हमारा जो वायरिंग होती है जो ऊपर का लेयर ने जो अंदर का लेयर होता है सर वो
Yes,
कॉपर.
yes. So that is, on the made up of copper. So it is used in housing and manufacturing.
वायर वगैरह हमारा जलने, इसीलिए तो जब हमारा वायर वगैरह जलने लगता है तब प्लास्टिक के जैसी बात आती है कि तो उसके अंदर कॉपर रहता है.
अंदर कॉपर रहता है, ऊपर नहीं. ऊपर तो वो एक इंसुलेटर होता है.
बोली सर मैं, उसके अंदर
हाँ.
कॉपर रहता है.
Yes, copper is used there, but that copper is also nowadays being used in power grids. They are also used in clean energy like solar power, etc. And copper is also used for AI and defense. AI sector में भी इस्तेमाल किया जा रहा है for creating, the data storage center for AI. Cloud system में उसका इस्तेमाल होता है, and defense. In many of the defense equipment also there is a use of copper. So a rise in copper prices is seen as a signal of robust economic growth, while falling prices tend to raise the concerns about an economic slowdown. Hence, it is seen as a barometer of economic health. Experts say the sharp fall in prices reflect weakening demand prospects amid concerns that higher energy costs from the conflict may dampen the economic growth. ठीक है. सो आफ्टर प्राइस पीक्ड इन लेट जनवरी, कॉपर का डिमांड जो है वो कम हो गया है बिकॉज ऑफ द वेस्ट एशिया कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. ये वेस्ट एशिया में जो वॉर चल रहा है उसकी वजह से कॉपर का डिमांड कम हो गया है. और कॉपर का डिमांड कम होना इज इंडिकेटर दैट कि देयर इज गोइंग टू बी अ इकोनॉमिक स्लो डाउन. क्लियर? सो कॉपर से रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन पूछे गए हैं. In prelims exam, go and check it out. What questions have been asked with respect to copper in prelims exam 2023, 24, and even 25. The question has been asked with respect to copper. 11A, you please go through that questions and share it in the group. Children, let's move on to the world affairs. Israel will expand its security strip in South Lebanon. That is what Netanyahu said. We have already discussed. Israel is having a greater Israel plan. So South Lebanon, they want to start a security strip. This is what Benjamin Netanyahu had said. So Pakistan hosts the talks with Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia to broker the end to West Asia war. तो ये West Asia war को रोकने के लिए सऊदी अरेबिया और इजिप्ट एंड तुर्की के लीडर्स क्या कर रहे हैं, कोशिश कर रहे हैं. तो लेट्स सी व्हाट हैपेंस वेदर दिस स्टॉप्स और नॉट, बिकॉज जितने जल्दी ये रुक जाएगा उतना ज्यादा बेटर होगा. Because already lots of energy infrastructure has been destroyed और उसको रिपेयर करके वापस से ग्लोबल सप्लाई ऑफ द एलपीजी, नेचुरल गैस, पेट्रोल, डीजल उसको रिवाइव करने के लिए एटलीस्ट कम से कम 1 से 2 साल लगेंगे. राइट, इवन इफ द वॉर स्टॉप्स नाउ, अगर वॉर अब भी रुक जाएगा उसके बावजूद भी ये ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी को रिकवर होने के लिए कम से कम 2 से 3 साल लगेंगे. इज इट क्लियर? Now Oli is remanded in a judicial custody for 5 days as Nepal protest continues. So ex-prime minister of Nepal has been arrested. Okay, तो वहां का कानून क्या है डोंट नो, बट जुडिशियल कस्टडी वहां पर भी है जैसे इंडिया में है. North Korea test the high thrust missile engine Kim watches. North Korea एक ऐसा कंट्री है which is completely isolated from the rest of the world. तो वहां क्या हो रहा है बहुत कम बाकी की दुनिया को पता चलता है, because media is not allowed there, international media is not allowed there. So North Korea has tested a engine which could be used for missiles. तो image you can check it out that कितने बड़े पैमाने पे ये फ्यूल का इस्तेमाल किया गया है for launching the missile in North Korea. तो नॉर्थ कोरिया एग्जैक्टली कहां पर लोकेटेड है, यू कैन गो एंड चेक इट आउट. नाउ द प्रोटेस्ट इज हैपनिंग. यस, तो ईरान में प्रोटेस्ट होने के बजाय गवर्नमेंट के खिलाफ में टू हैव द रेजिम चेंज, द प्रोटेस्ट इज हैपनिंग इन यूएस. राइट, सो डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प वांटेड टू हैव अ रेजिम चेंज इन ईरान, बट प्रोटेस्ट ईरान यूएसए में हो रहे हैं. सो नो किंग्स, that is what cries out of US. So demonstrator decrying US President Donald Trump's aggressive deportation efforts, war in Iran, and the other policies much during the No Kings protest in Oakland, California. Protesters took the streets across the country in the third round of the rallies with 3,200 volunteers. Events have been planned in all 50 states. How many states are there in USA? 50 states are there, right? Initially there were around 13 or 13 colonies or 14 colonies I guess, but now there are overall 50 states in USA. तो इन सारे states में डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प के खिलाफ में प्रोटेस्ट किए गए हैं. No kings means Donald Trump is behaving like a king and we don't want a king. That is what the American people have said. Like America is the first country in the world which has a modern political system, right? Based on the modern political ideas of equality, fraternity, then justice, at the same time republicanism. ये जो आइडियाज फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन में जो एमर्ज हो गए थे, तो सबसे पहले रिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के तहत अगर कहीं इन आइडियाज को इम्प्लीमेंट किया गया था, दैट वाज इन अमेरिका, एंड दैट इज व्हाई अमेरिका इज कंसिडर्ड एज द वन ऑफ द ओल्डेस्ट मॉडर्न डेमोक्रेसी, राइट? So large rallies took place all over the New York and Dallas and Philadelphia, Washington. That is what you can check it out. The protest is happening in America. So we have seen India's constitution has a lot of inspiration from the American constitution in certain aspects like federalism, like freedom of speech, judiciary's power to review the decisions taken by the governments, that etc. बहुत सारी चीजें हमने USA से borrow की है in our constitution. So here you can check it out. USA is considered as one of the most open democracies in the world, where the people can easily criticize and protest against the government policies as a fundamental right of freedom of speech and expression. So this is what is the people of America are using. They are protesting against the Donald Trump's policies of the deportation of the migrants, then war in Iran, and as well as other policies of America. Is it clear? Now, Egypt's Nabil Fahmy has been named as the Arab League chief. आज जाकर आप चेक करेंगे ये अरब लीग क्या है. अरब पीस इनिशिएटिव क्वेश्चन पूछा गया था. अब अरब लीग क्या है? Go and check it out, and it is on one of the again important global, sorry, not global but regional, the forum where all the Arab countries come together in understanding and solving their problem. Is it clear? How many members are there in Arab League? Question पूछा जा सकता है क्या? प्रीलिम्स में ऐसे क्वेश्चन पूछे गए हैं? Which among the following countries are the members of the Arab League or not the members of the Arab League? Explain page for India. LPG supply is bigger worry than LNG. LPG supply India के लिए ज़्यादा problematic है than the natural gas because we have seen that LPG का इस्तेमाल करने वाले लोगों की संख्या बढ़ गई है इंडिया में. Why? क्या वजह है? Why more people are using LPG now compared to 10-20 years back? Like government push, government scheme, right? ये सारी चीजें हैं. तो LPG supply is a more what I can say bigger worry for India than the LNG, liquefied natural gas, that is what is mentioned here. So India depends on imports to meet around 60% of its LPG needs and 90% of the imports come through the Strait of Hormuz. अगर कोई क्वेश्चन पूछा जाए with respect to LPG supply, LPG demand in India, you can give this data. कितना परसेंट LPG हम import करते हैं? 60% LPG we import, and 90% of those 60% imported comes from which region? It comes from the Strait of Hormuz. और Strait of Hormuz को अगर जो choke point है उसको अगर ब्लॉक किया जाएगा तो क्या होगा? वो जो 60% जो LPG सप्लाई इंडिया में आ रहा है वो कम हो जाएगा. 60% LPG सप्लाई ब्लॉक हो गया मतलब 60% लोगों को इंडिया में क्या नहीं मिलेगा? LPG गैप नहीं मिलेगा. So read this. What is the difference between LNG and LPG? Question पूछा गया था already UPSC के द्वारा. हो सकता है this time also they might ask. What is LNG? What is the difference between liquefied natural gas and liquefied petroleum gas? I think Jitendra has asked me a question few days back. What is the difference between these two? So it has been explained here. तो LPG का इस्तेमाल कहाँ होता है और LNG का इस्तेमाल कहाँ होता है? That's what you can check it out here. चलिए. So, and this is all there in the today's newspaper. We will stop it here. We'll have the geography class at 10:15 as per our regular schedule. Today we will be continuing with the climate topic of the geography. Indian monsoon mechanism हम discuss कर रहे हैं. So we will be discussing the mechanism of monsoon in India. तो features of Indian monsoon में हमने देखा था arrival of the monsoon, break in the monsoon and retreat of the monsoon. ये कैसे होता है? That's what we'll try to understand. Any doubts from the today's newspaper? Am I audible to you?
नो डाउट नहीं.
ठीक है, चलिए. So we'll stop it here.
तो नहीं है अभी, पता नहीं फिर.
ठीक है. We will stop it here. We'll continue at 10:15.